Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today. As always, the Dream Team is back.
I'm delighted to be with you, Amber. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Despite the fact it's rather gloomy outside. But in any event, more gloom of a more suspicious nature, because the latest document drop in the Russiagate scandal shows an alleged email that indicates Hillary Clinton allegedly signed off on a plan to distract from her email matters to turn the spotlight on then-candidate Donald Trump. The plan Clinton allegedly approved was to emphasize, quote, Putin's support for Trump and how Vladimir Putin was trying to intervene in the election. The problem, however, are whether those emails that indicate Clinton signed off from the declassified docs are authentic.
On Thursday, Senator Chuck Grassley, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, declassified an appendix to former special counsel John Durham's report on Trump's alleged collusion with Russia. The special counsel probe writes in that appendix that Russian operatives likely obtained alleged emails from the Soros-backed Open Society foundations back in 2016 by hacking. Two of the emails, which Durham could not retrieve from Open Society foundations, allegedly were from Leonard Bernardo, the foundation's regional director for Eurasia, who allegedly wrote, quote, Hillary Clinton approved her campaign advisor's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections. This should distract people from her own missing email, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. Bernardo allegedly went on to write, the point is making the Russian play a U.S. domestic issue. Say something like a critical infrastructure threat for the election to feel manic, since both President Obama and then Vice President Biden have acknowledged the fact that the intelligence community would speed up searching for evidence that is regrettably still unavailable. Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI's investigation into Trump's alleged ties with Russia, was opened just days after that alleged email was sent.
The declassified appendix ultimately alleges that the Clinton campaign was engaged in a plan to tie Trump to Russia, and the campaign, quote, might have wanted or expected the FBI or other agencies to aid that effort by commencing a formal investigation of the DNC hack. But again, the report raises doubts about the authenticity of the bombshell emails, noting that while certain analysts said their best assessment was that the emails were authentic, some noted that the Russians may have fabricated or altered them after the hack. In response to the allegations in that appendix, an Open Society spokesperson said in a statement, quote, the claim that the Open Society foundations helped orchestrate an FBI investigation is an outrageous falsehood. It is grounded in malicious disinformation traced to Russian intelligence and now weaponized as part of a politically motivated campaign to attack our leadership and our work to promote human rights. Obama-era intelligence officials, former CIA Director John Brennan and former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, pushed back on claims of misconduct under their leadership. In a New York Times op-ed, Brennan and Clapper called Tulsi Gabbard's claims of treasonous conspiracy patently false and write, quote, every serious review has substantiated the intelligence community's fundamental conclusion that the Russians conducted an influence campaign intended to help Mr. Trump win the 2016 election. They continue referencing their review of the infamous Steele dossier. Contrary to the Trump administration's wild and baseless claims, there was no mention of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians in the assessment. Well, that was quite an introduction. I don't know how we'll get through all of this in the time available. I would suspect you're perhaps more excited about the publication of this appendix than I am. So do you want to tell me what your basic take is on
I mean, I would use the word disturbed more than excited.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that there's a lot here that is worth investigating, namely in the release from Tulsi Gabbard, the idea that Obama, Brennan, and Clapper were directing intelligence officials to reach different conclusions about what role Russia actually did play in the election in order to provide this impetus for an election into Trump's alleged collusion with the Russian president in order to help him get elected. And then in the Grassley release, I think what's interesting is not even the attempt to distract from Hillary's emails, because that's not surprising, right?
Politics, really.
That's politics. Yeah. But what is, I think, more problematic is the suggestion that they were trying to get Obama to pressure the DOJ to start that investigation. And if the president was being pressured by outside political influences or himself wanted to start an investigation to sow doubt about Trump's legitimacy as the incoming president, then that would be a weaponization of the intelligence service.
So first of all, I'm glad that we have access to this appendix, and you and I have spoken in relation to other matters about the importance of going to the primary documents where you can, rather than relying on politically partisan interpretations of them. And so I would encourage anybody to go and read this 29-page document to try to summarize it as fairly as possible and in the time available. There are two basic strands. One is these purported emails from the Open Society guy, which are contending that there's an attempt to smear Trump, etc. And then separately, memos that you're referring to, which are of quite unclear provenance. I mean, they seem, I think the implication is they are Russian interpretations of what a source has told the Russians, which then gets back through a source that the American intelligence community has to the US. I'll come to those in a second, but it's worth saying that in relation to the Bernardo emails, that even John Durham, a special counsel appointed during the first Trump administration, ultimately comes to the conclusion that those emails are not kosher, that they are, in fact, a consolidation of other emails that the Russians have hacked from other people. There's a guy at the Carnegie Foundation whose language is exactly duplicated in these purported emails from someone else. So I think that casts a doubt on it. In relation to the other memos, I just think there's so much that we don't know about where that is coming from. They also, incidentally, include the contention that Obama was pressuring people to wrap up the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails, but that James Comey, leaning Republican, wished to extend that investigation to damage Hillary Clinton's campaign. Now, I don't know that too many people think that. Certainly not too many people in Trump world think that James Comey was working to help their guy in 2016. So I'm just wary of cherry picking around these topics, and I think there's a lot of messiness around it.
Yeah, certainly it warrants further investigation to make sure that the intelligence that has been released is authentic. And I read Durham's assessment of those emails slightly differently than you, because in one of the following addendums to the email, he states, or Durham doesn't state, but it states that Durham asked fellow members of the DOJ and the FBI whether they thought that the emails were authentic, and the vast majority of them said that they did, even if they had been hacked by the Russians. So I think it was less likely, according to their assessment, that the emails had been fabricated or compiled by the Russians, but rather that they were hacked and then the FBI got a hold of them and they appear to be authentic.
But I think that ignores the fact that Durham did his own investigation, where the Durham people got these emails from other think tanks that had been hacked. And so in addition to the passage that you're referring to, on page 17, if people want to look it up on the report, he says the office, this is the Office of the Special Counsels, best assessment is that the July 25th and July 27th emails that purport to be from Bernardo were ultimately a composite of several emails that were obtained through Russian intelligence hacking of the US-based think tanks, including the Open Society Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment, and others. So he pretty clearly doesn't think those emails are as they were presented.
Yeah, I wonder what that means in terms of the word composite. Is he saying that it's several different emails from Bernardo spliced together into one, or that there's different authors?
He's saying there's different authors because the language that is being presented as Bernardo's is actually used by a completely different guy, not connected to the Clinton campaign, from the Carnegie Endowment.
Yeah, I mean, I think regardless, as I said in the beginning, that was the least serious allegation, was what the Open Society's guy was saying. It was more in terms of what the Obama administration was doing in terms of the investigation, because I don't think it's surprising that the Clinton campaign wanted to distract from the emails or wanted to get information to the intelligence community that Go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, but I don't think it is surprising that the Clinton campaign wanted to distract from the emails. I think that's what happens. But that's very different from saying Obama leaned on people in the intelligence community in one way or another.
We'll certainly continue to follow it.
We will indeed. Up next, Kamala Harris appeared on The Colbert Show to launch her new book. Is she preparing for 2028? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.